Hey, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking storms across mainly the western side of the U.S., except for a few storms that are going to be bringing in some wind across the eastern side of the U.S. So let's go ahead and get to your headlines today. Your daily hail risk is increasing. So we've got not only a risk for hail today, but also tomorrow and all the way through the end of this week and this weekend. That stormy weather pattern is going to stay very persistent. Again, not just today, but the next day and the next day. And have you guys seen Tropical Storm Lorenzo? Yes, we have our next named storm out in the Atlantic, and it's making waves, but that's about it. We are not seeing Lorenzo do too much out there. What happened over the last 24 hours and this weekend? Well, we saw some high wind in some areas. We saw a lot of flooding in other areas as well, actually flooding coast to coast. So we saw that flooding across the west coast and across the east coast here. Other than that, the severe risk was very, very low this weekend. We didn't see a ton of severe storms across the U.S. That is going to change as we have a more active weather pattern set up across the U.S. Not only today, but most days this week, we will have some form of hail risk in the forecast. You can see we've got a cold front right now bringing some rainy and wet weather across the central portion of the U.S. All of this, again, not severe, but it is bringing a cool down. More severe weather likely across places like Arizona today, but let's first start out to the east where we've got some flooding and some high winds across the east coast from a nor'easter that's moving through. We've also got some showers across the west coast as well, and we'll talk about what exactly that means. Hey, look at that, some snow mixing into the upper elevations across central Colorado. So we'll talk about it, some cooler temperatures moving across the U.S. 50s up in Denver, 60s in Oklahoma, and 70s out in Atlanta. So let's talk about the overall setup here. You've got the jet stream, which is digging down to the south in California thanks to this low pressure system that's really holding all of this wet weather in place. It's also bringing some severe risks to Los Angeles, not only today, but also tomorrow. Meanwhile, a little bit farther to the east, we've got a high pressure system that's sitting and keeping us a little bit warmer, 70s, 80s, and maybe even some 90s down in the south today. And then this low pressure system, now this is your nor'easter. Have you guys seen that on social media? The New York Times wrote about it today. This low pressure system, also known as a nor'easter, is bringing some strong wind to the east coast. So it's going to stay windy all day today with 50, 60, maybe 65 mile per hour wind gusts that are not related to a severe thunderstorm. No, it's more like hurricane type wind. Now, it's not a hurricane. It's a low pressure system, but it's not coming from a thunderstorm, okay? I know that's a little complicated, but we'll talk a little bit about it here in just a few minutes. Staying warm across the south, and then what we start to see here is we've got a setup that is looking very, very typical for severe weather. This low pressure system out to the west, this high pressure system out to the east, and what happens right in the middle of these two is severe storms. So we have a risk for severe weather not only today, but also tomorrow, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Let's talk about today first. Here's your hail risk for today. They're highlighted in yellow. We're getting more colors on the board here. We've got those yellows and those oranges starting to mix in. So where is your greatest chance for hail today? I brought it to a quarter today. I know, not terribly impressive this afternoon. We've got that down in Arizona. However, it does get a lot more impressive as we head into Tuesday and Wednesday. We're going to see that hail risk move a little bit closer to New Mexico tomorrow, even including Colorado just north of Denver on Wednesday. So we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes as well. For today, Phoenix and Tucson both included in that hail and wind risk today. No tornado risk on the board. However, we do have a tornado risk for tomorrow. We've also got a wind risk out in Santa Barbara today. Tomorrow, we're going to encompass Los Angeles into that risk as well. And again, all thanks to this low pressure system that's bringing storms down to the southern portion of California and then eventually to places like Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska later on this week. Moving on here, let's go ahead and talk about the timeline for today. Then we'll get into tomorrow, Wednesday, and we've even got a risk for Saturday on the board here. Oh, look at this. You can clearly see that low pressure system as it spins out in the Pacific. Today we're going to focus on Phoenix all the way down to Tucson, where you've got some ongoing convection right now. However, a better chance for severe weather later on this afternoon and evening. Just a little note here, these storms will have a northward track with them, so they may move a little bit different than what you're used to seeing. And all of that, of course, thanks to that jet stream, which is sweeping everything off to the north. Moving on now, let's talk about that wind risk out in Santa Barbara today. Showers and storms are most likely to stay non-severe. However, a few of them could pulse to that severe category and bring us 60 to 65 mile per hour wind speeds. There you go. Just as these storms come onshore from the Pacific, we could see some strong wind. Another thing that we're watching for here is going to be that flooding risk. We've got a level 2 flooding risk for not only today, but also tomorrow out in the Four Corners and the West Coast. Let's move on to Tuesday now. We're moving into New Mexico at this point. El Paso all the way to Albuquerque. Santa Rosa included in this forecast as well. That hail forecast still sitting at a level 1. However, I have updated the maximum hail size for tomorrow to up to ping pong ball size hail. So while most of our hailstones will stay in that quarter to maybe nickel range, I think a few of these stones out in New Mexico tomorrow will get up to ping pong ball size hail. I think actually every day we'll start to see larger and larger hailstones. So as we move into places like Colorado by Wednesday, I think that we could see ping pong, maybe golf ball size hailstones. We'll talk about that here in just a few minutes, but I want to give you your outlook for Tuesday. Take a look at your state, your nationwide view here. Where's the rain going to be? Anywhere from New Mexico all the way to Colorado, Kansas, our Midwestern states also in the path for wet weather tomorrow. But again, really the severe weather that sits down in Albuquerque all the way down to the southern portion of New Mexico and even portions of eastern New Mexico included in that severe risk. One more time for those of you in New Mexico, you can see those isolated storms. Those are your hailers. You want them to be pretty isolated, or what we would call discrete, and that's going to be your storm risk. Alrighty, moving on here. Let's talk about your wind forecast, and we even have a tornado forecast for tomorrow as well. While it may be a low level 1 risk for strong winds, we've got an area that we could see some spin-up tornadoes for not only Santa Barbara tomorrow, but also for Los Angeles. They're highlighted in green. So one more time here, let's talk about your severe risk over the next few days. Monday, Arizona and Southern California. Tuesday, New Mexico and Southern California. Things start to change on Wednesday, where we get that typical severe weather setup. We've got that low pressure system out to the west, that high pressure system out to the east. So this is most likely what I think a lot of people want to see. Western Nebraska, South Dakota, all the way into the northern portion of Colorado, not including Denver at this time. However, Denver, you could get added to the risk later on. So make sure that you come back for your day-to-day updates as this could change. Here we've got 2 areas for concern on Wednesday. That highlighted there in green, it's a level 1 risk right now. However, I could see a world where this gets upgraded to a level 2 risk. Here's a look at your rain as we head into Wednesday as well. Highlighted there in yellow from Rapid City all the way to northern Colorado, we've got that risk for storms. Then as we head into Thursday, we start to see this trough move to the east, okay? We got a little bit more activity this week than what we saw last week. As this does move to the east, we'll probably get a risk on Thursday and Friday. So just because we don't have a risk right now doesn't mean that there won't be one added later this week. We're just waiting for more weather information to come in before that gets issued. What we do know is Saturday we have a good risk for tornadoes and hail across the central to eastern portion of the U.S. So we're talking about here eastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, southern Missouri, including St. Louis, southern Illinois, and then even into Indiana, and even portions of Kentucky and Tennessee. Okay, we've got a lot of people included in this risk here. Right now, while it is a level 1, I do expect this to get upgraded at least to level 2, maybe even level 3 as we head into Saturday. Again, we're waiting for more weather data to come in before we officially make those moves. One more time here, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we don't have a risk yet. Saturday highlighted there in yellow. Any weather questions before we move on from the severe risk here? Let's see. We've got one comment on here, but I'll give you a few minutes to get your weather questions in here. Texas J. Jones says, great reporting. Tex J. Jones, that sounds like an old Western character. Thanks for your comment. We'll wait just a few more minutes for more comments and questions to come in. While we do wait, let's talk about the tropics real quick. Hey, did you guys see that we got an upgraded tropical storm this weekend? Yes, we got Lorenzo officially on the board here. 50-mile-per-hour winds, not too shabby. Pressure at 1,002, moving to the northwest at about 16 miles an hour. Slower than what we saw our previous hurricanes or tropical storms from last week. We're expecting this to stay a tropical storm, maybe upgrading to a hurricane here. What do we have here? Is this Cat 1 here? It's a little small on the board. Upgrading to a hurricane very, very briefly, and then staying a tropical storm as this continues to move into the higher latitudes and then back to the east. Is this impacting anything? Most likely not. This is a fish storm. Why do we call it that? Because it impacts the fish. We've had a lot of fish storms this year. Moving on here, let's take a look at our names. We're officially on our second column of names here. Lorenzo was the first of that column, Melissa after that. So we've got a few more to go until we hit that forecasted number of storms that we officially thought. Back in January, we said 12 to 17 named storms is what we're going to get this year. We're at 11 right now. The average is 14 named storms, about 7 of those becoming hurricanes. And we told you guys about a week or two ago that we are expecting to still see more named storms in October. We still have about 2 to 3 more weeks left of an active hurricane season. And even last year, this is what we saw last year. We saw a very, very active September and October. So we could absolutely see more named storms all the way into November. Alrighty, moving on. I don't see any more pressing weather questions. I can see them on the side of the screen over here. So we're going to move on to temperatures. Hey, have you guys enjoyed the cool down today? I hope that you have, because it's not going to last long. I showed you earlier that this high pressure system that's sitting in the south and eastern portion of the U.S., it's going to hold in that heat, and it's going to keep temperatures above average as we head into the middle of the work week. But you kind of see this difference from the central portion of the U.S. out to the west, how we've got that cold air and that hot air. What you're going to see right in the middle of this here is a really good chance for active and severe weather as we head into the middle and end of the work week. This will slowly track to the east, warming up the east coast as we head into the end of the work week, and again promoting that severe weather as we head into Friday and Saturday. Temperatures, we're talking about 70s, 80s through most of the week. If you're out to the west, you're going to be cooler. Up to the north, cooler. Very, very typical for this time of the year. Just a bit warmer than what we normally see. How long is this going to last? For a while. October 18th all the way through the 22nd, so we're looking to the last half of October at this point. It is likely that temperatures will stay above average, so warmer than normal, as we head into the end of this month. We've also got a chance for wet weather. Now, what does this tell you right here? I haven't looked at long-term models, but right off the bat, this tells me if we have warm temperatures, especially with this divide from cooler temperatures out to the west and warmer to the east, this tells me, especially with this wet weather, we could see more of an active into October. We could see more severe weather. Warm air, moisture, those are 2 ingredients for severe storms. So just off the bat, that's what that tells me. Come back for more weather updates as we get more information later on this week. We are expecting that tornado and hail risk by Saturday. We'll talk about other threats that may come our way Thursday and Friday as well. We'll have a weather forecast every single day at noon, but in the meantime, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and give us a call if you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map. Whatever pops up across the U.S. today, our meteorologist will be tracking it. So give us a call at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com or head over to our website, hailtrace.com. All right, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we'll see you back here, same time, same place.